Good afternoon, good morning, good day, however you happen to be watching this. Hi, Rachel. How are you this afternoon?
Hey, Mr. Miller, I'm good. How are you?
I am amazing. We also have a guest with us today, Anastasia Harrell. And in about a second, we'll even get into all of that fun stuff. But first, welcome to the Rachel and Mr. Miller podcast, where we discuss real estate, real life, and occasionally things we probably shouldn't. We're pros in the buying and selling of residential real estate, but nothing you hear here is legal, financial, or professional advice outside of our licensed wheelhouses. We're just two humans talking to other humans. Well, they keep saying I'm human, but anyway, proceed accordingly. And with that, I'm going to move this off of my screen and say, Anastasia, we have so many questions. You are, from what I'm going to call you, you are the referral queen. So I'm bowing.
We are bowing down to Anastasia.
Before we went on the air, we asked you a question, and I'm going to re-ask that. Anastasia, how many referrals have you been involved with in the last 12 or 13 months?
Over 200. Just in January of 2026 alone, I had 57 outgoing listing referrals.
Amazing.
That's a wow.
Yeah.
That's definitely a wow. Rachel, you have all kinds of questions lined up, and I am going to fix my hand so it stops hurting.
Okay.
So, continue.
Also, maybe play around with your mic because it sounds a little fuzzy. I don't know what's going on. There's like air
Yeah.
noise.
How's that?
Anastasia, would you take a moment to introduce yourself to us? Let us know when you got your license, what your real estate career looked like in the very, very beginning, and how you rolled into this amazing success in your referral business.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you guys have mentioned, my name is Anastacia Harrell. I'm a Washington State managing broker, also a referral specialist, novations expert, team leader. But first and foremost, I'm a mom to an 8-year-old daughter, doing the single mom life. And so
Wow.
my goal is to obviously help people buy and sell homes. Primarily, that ends up looking like working with investors a lot. But what I really do is I build relationships that last far beyond the traditional transaction. So over the years, I've been able to build a referral-based business that really allows me to serve my clients across any market while also helping to mentor agents and collaborate with like minds like your guys's on more complex transactions like novations. And so it's been a really fabulous thing. At the heart of it, it's just that I really care about making sure that people are supported and protected and that they feel confident in the biggest financial decision that a buyer or a seller is going to make in their entire life, right? So, yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me.
And so I think you mentioned you obtained your real estate license back in 2017.
Yep.
So it's been almost 10 years. What did your career look like in those first 1 to 2, maybe 3 years?
Yeah. So when I first got my real estate license, I was a dental hygienist. I'd been in dentistry for 11 years. And it was stable, it was safe, but ultimately I had a ceiling and I had somebody else that was controlling my schedule, right? I had to show up for my patients. The final kind of thing for me, I had been licensed doing both full time. I was full-time real estate and full-time hygienist. And my daughter and I both ended up with COVID, right? During 2020, before they really even knew COVID was hitting our area. And it took both of us out. And my daughter got it first. I was still expected to show up and take care of my patients. And by the time I got home one afternoon, her fever was so high. And we were going on our third visit to the children's hospital. And I got home. My dad had been with her. And her fever was so high, she could hardly open her eyes and look at me. And I remember swooping her up off the couch and just being like, it still kind of gets me choked up. I was so scared. I could not believe that I had just left my child to take care of my patients for an entire day when she felt this horrible. So I rush her back into the children's hospital and they end up giving us a bunch of medication, double ear infections. She ended up with pink eye. It was just horrible. And really then to find out later it was COVID. But then I ended up getting sick too. And then the world shut down, right? So I was going to be able to return back to work the day before the shutdown in our area. And I was like, yeah, I'm not actually. So I just didn't go back. And, real estate had always been something I was interested in. I initially got my real estate license because I was fired from a hygiene job while on maternity leave and thought, okay, I need more, right? So it really was centered around the idea that I had to be the sole provider for my daughter and I didn't have any other choice. And real estate gave me an option to be my own boss and to be able to take care of us. But then it also, hygiene became the thing that really pushed me out of doing that job and right into full-time real estate. And I just never looked back. And so, things were pretty scary during that time. If for those that were in the market during the pandemic time, showing homes was really tricky and there was just a lot of stuff. I started realizing I couldn't really be one of those agents that could be out pounding the pavement because I had a daughter at home to take care of and her needs were important. I wanted to be the mom that could pick her up when she didn't feel good or, go on the field trips or be at the after school activities. I wanted to be present for all of those things, and showing homes and working with buyers and pounding the pavement with going out and doing listing walkthroughs wasn't really going to work for me. So I started looking at opportunities to kind of shift into something a little different. And that became agent attraction for a while. I was one of the top 5% attractors at my prior brokerage. And
What
then
do you mean by that? Sorry to interrupt.
yeah, I was attracting agents to our brokerage that had
Uh-huh.
a rev share model. And so I became really good at that because I had kind of a unique thing, right? I was teaching people that you didn't have to be out pounding the pavement to still collect a check every month, right? And I was leveraging the efforts of other people to continue to grow myself, my business, and my income. And then ended up coming across Epic, which is where we are now. And so we shifted over here because there was a lot more opportunity. And all of those connections I kind of had built along the way had always been really important. I continued to pour into those and feed those relationships, and they just continued to grow. I met with a gentleman here locally who is an investor client of mine, and he said, hey, I want to do these things called novations, and I've been doing them for a little bit, but I need an agent that's really good. And I was like, okay. And so I started learning how to do those, and then it just continued to build and build because I'm one of those people that if something comes across my desk, if it's something I'm interested in, it's something I'm going to take hold of and I'm going to do it over and over again. And I'm going to break it and I'm going to fix it and make it better and break it again until it can't continue to get any better. I'm going to master the efforts. Otherwise, it sits over here in a pile. And there are things right over here in my pile. It's my little, parking lot there that don't get my attention, because they either are going to be monopoly money or they are going to be something that's really not a passion of mine. But finding unique ways to work under the umbrella of real estate has always been of interest to me. It doesn't have to be a box that everybody puts you in.
Scott, I know you're dying to get into novation. I want to ask one question before, and then I'm going to let Scott ask two because I think he's got two. Am I
Yeah.
wrong?
Go ahead.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
Okay. Really quick, because everything you just said was so intriguing to me, and you said a lot of little buzzwords that kind of put bells off in my head. But you said you continued to feed and nurture relationships. And could you, real quick, so we can get to Scott's questions before he forgets what they are, could you give us a few examples of what that means to you, what you did to nurture and keep those relationships strong and growing?
Yep. I positioned myself as what I like to call, and I don't hear it often, but I like to use the word a connector. I positioned myself as a connector. And so I'm constantly checking in with people and seeing what they're needing, what services I can help them locate, or how I can be of assistance. And so I continue to nurture all of my relationships by just kind of following up and seeing what somebody might need, what they could help with, what I could help with, and how things are going for them, and offering bits of advice on whether that's, hey, I have somebody who could help with that, or maybe it's, have you thought about doing it this way or tweaking this a little bit? And a lot of those things come from experience and exposure, right? And so it gives you a unique position when you're able to say, I have somebody for that. Or
Yeah.
have you thought about it this way? And I always tell agents, I'm like, a lot of people want to look at something in a two-dimensional way, right? They want to just look at something 2D. I don't. I want to spin it around, and I want to look at it from every single angle and look at it in 3 and 4-dimensional instead, to really be able to squeeze everything I can out of those opportunities. And so, I coach a lot of agents, even in their own arenas, about how they can look at something a little bit differently to yield more opportunity or to get them better results, because you should be looking beyond just the surface at opportunities. There's always more in something.
Amazing. Miller.
Did I forget? No, I didn't forget. I've found out why my mic's not working is my cool microphone
Yeah.
isn't connected.
Oh, there you go. It was so much better now.
That
Wait,
was the
better.
problem.
Okay, explain what novation is I did a quick Google search and I see that you're a novation expert, and I'm like, "What's a novation expert?"
Mhm.
Before we do a deep dive into the referral world, this may be a novation. I suspect is going to be a whole nother podcast at some point. Give us a teaser of what novation is, as I thought it was something like the sub 2 market, and I found it is not the sub 2 market,
No.
but I was like, is she just using a different word? So if you can give us I'm gonna say the high level view of what novation is, that would be amazingly outstanding.
Yep. So, I hear that from a lot of people. It's sub 2, it's wholesaling, it's this, it's that. And I tell people all of the time, agents, don't go on Google and don't go and use ChatGPT, because it's going to give you really terrible information, which is why I created the Novation Starter Kit, because the information is not readily available. And if you can find information on what a novation is, you're not going to get a good answer. It's going to run you in circles. So novations at its core, a novation is a type of transaction that is going to help a seller who maybe can't or doesn't want to sell in a traditional way, to help them restructure that transaction or deal so that the property can still be marketed on the open MLS and sold with the assistance of a person in the mix, another party. And so from a 10,000-foot view, that is what a novation is. Now I get asked all of the time, well, why would someone decide they wanted to sell that way? The answer I always give is it's the same with any listing, right? So we all know as real estate agents that selling homes can be really stressful. A
Wait, it
lot of times
can? Are you sure?
high emotion. Yeah, right? There's a lot of high emotion, but it can be just really daunting to people. And there are a lot of people who don't want to deal with all of that. And so a novator is someone who can help step in, and they essentially play the intermediary, I guess, and take a lot of that stress and decision making off of the deeded owner's plate to help facilitate the sale. You're still leveraging the use of a listing agent and a buyer's agent. That doesn't change. But the reason that somebody would decide to do that could be something as simple as they've had a bad experience with a realtor and they just don't feel comfortable using one or trying to find one themselves again. It may be something, I've seen them be done for probates. I've seen them be done for financial distress. So really the theme is that you can probably see here is the reason somebody would decide to go with doing the sale of their home as a novation is the same reasons that they would decide to list it just normally. They just aren't looking to be the one that's in charge of all of the stress and micromanaging of everything throughout the duration of the sale of their home.
So would the position be called a novationator? And the way I'm hearing it is it's a liaison between client and the other real estate party.
In a sense, yes.
Mhm.
The person that is the novator essentially is the
Novator.
client for that transaction purpose. And so when I'm hired for those transactions, my client is the novator. It is not the deeded owner.
So you have taken on the position as a novator.
Not myself.
Oh,
I'm the real estate agent. So, and or the referral agent if I'm finding somebody nationwide. So my position in these typically is either I will list them. So I'm either the listing agent or I'm the agent finder slash referral partner, right? Because I'm finding an agent nationwide who's familiar with these types of transactions to represent the novators in those transactions.
This is definitely going to be another podcast. I can tell that there's
yeah.
a lot of it.
There's
I
so much to unpack, and I'm so because I'm like, a novator, somebody like a licensed, somebody who's a licensed agent can market themselves as a novator, or it's somebody outside of the industry, like a friend of or a trusted person of, almost like the name, the words escaping me right now. A power of attorney. Is that?
It's not a power of attorney. So, power of attorneys have to typically go before judges and things like that and are notarized. This is a contractual agreement that
Mhm.
happens between the deeded owner and the novator. And
Whoever
this
they choose for that person to be. Interesting. Okay.
Sherry on chat just said a novator acts on behalf of the homeowner, question mark.
correct.
Sherry gets a gold star.
Yep. Good
Hi,
job, Sherry.
Sherry.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So definitely this is going to be a whole another show and potentially more than 30 minutes.
Yeah. We definitely
So
want to kind of loop back, as I think
yeah,
Scott's going to do, in right now, talking more about how you've created your referral-based business.
that's absolutely correct. Rachel, your voice got really low. 200 referrals. Wow. So what is, I guess, how did you do that?
How?
How? Tell
So
all your secrets.
it's really been a lot of nurturing of relationships. It started out as working with one person here local to me and then doing really great work. And their person's partner in those things was like, wow, I haven't seen anybody do this way. And your process is incredible. I need access to it. And I know other people who need access to it. And so then it became more and more and more. And when you niche into something like novations and really, really hard niche into it, this is not one of those things where you can go and find somebody who has this level of experience easily. There are not a ton of people who, one, even know what a novation is, but two, that have the level of experience with them that I have. And so that I typically I'll have calls with agents, right, that I'm sending referrals to. And I'm like, do you have this experience? I can usually tell within a couple minutes if they do. And so it really was about dialing in on and seeing, I saw a need and dialed in on that need and continued to pour into it to build that up. And so the initial relationship, it became the foundation of everything, really. And it grew because people trusted me enough to attach their name to mine. And that's something that is very sacred to me. And so I get asked all the time, like, hey, will you teach lead gen on this? And I'm like, no, those relationships are very sacred to me. Referrals aren't just business for me. These are someone saying, I believed enough in what you brought to the table or what you have recommended to continue to recommend you to other people. So that has just continued to grow and grow and grow.
So my guess is you have I'm going to air quotes, a screening process for your referral pool, I'm going to call it.
I do. Yeah. I'm pretty particular about who I will take on. Not everybody treats referral business the same. And at the end of the day, it's a reflection of me. So if I were to send somebody, let's say to you, Scott, and say, hey, can you take care of this client for me? It's not just your performance just isn't a reflection of you. It is, yes, but it's also a reflection of me because I'm the one
Absolutely.
who said, Scott would be a really great agent for you to work with. I'm going to connect you. And I can't tell you how often I end up ghosted. I presented at an area leadership retreat, and I had a little thing that was around Halloween time that just said, I didn't realize that ghosting applied to the referral clients too, and that this is, what they were talking about, because it happens all the time that the client and I get ghosted, and then I look really, really bad. So I am pretty particular about who I will trust with referrals. Somebody has to, in most cases, they have to have experience. Now, that's not to say I won't teach somebody. I probably trained 75 agents last year alone in
Right.
novations, and I have readily available the novation starter kit. And so for those that are interested in being able to represent this type of client in these types of transactions, I do have the starter kit available. It is not my one-on-one coaching though, but it does give you clear information on what novations are, how to manage them properly, all of those things. And so really what I'm looking for in my referral partners, since my referrals tend to be novation based, is somebody who has experience or knowledge in novations. They don't have to be an expert. I work with them through the entire duration of the deal. So, and I never mind teaching someone. If I'm really in a tight bind and it's an area that's very rural, I will still teach agents how to do these. My preference is to find agents who already have the experience or have gotten on my VIP list by doing the novation starter kit and or my coaching. And so I want to make sure that these clients have good representation, because it's not one of those things that you can just do by the seat of your pants. Like, you really need to know what you're doing for this, not only for their sake, but also for yours, and not just yours either. Your brokerage, agents shouldn't be doing things that they don't have the knowledge base in.
They're not staying in their wheelhouse, as I like to
Yeah,
say.
exactly. Yep. And there are NAR rules that apply to that, right? So, I do a vetted process. I usually will look for somebody to tell me that they have experience or knowledge, and then usually it's a phone call. I've narrowed those phone calls down to about 5 minutes. I can tell within about 5 minutes whether or not it's going to work or not. And I do have some things after the phone call that are expected. They need to be able to send me their information. They need to put their information into a form that I've created. And if they can't do those things, it's a pretty good indication of me that it's probably not going to be a good fit. Because
So,
if you can't do those simple tasks, how are you going to represent the client?
well, I'm putting words in your mouth. It sounds like a lot of your referrals are in the novation world and not in the traditional, I'm gonna say, in the traditional referral world of a referral. Like, hey, my
A niche
brother
inside of a
Tom has a
niche.
Yeah.
right. It's a niche referral. So even still with a niche referral, that's still a huge number.
Yeah.
Yes, you were in my head, Miller.
I
I
wondered.
was like saying those things, same things in my head. Those same questions were coming forward.
So you're doing traditional referral. When I say traditional referrals, like, I know an agent here in Southern California who referred an agent in Oregon, and it was a traditional referral. And that agent in Oregon was a complete and utter fail. I mean, total fail. That just drives me crazy. And we have tools and systems available with us at Epic to help resolve that. Even still, it was a complete and total fail. When you do a traditional referral, are you using that same type of, all I can think is execution, that same type of execution when you're doing typical referrals?
Yes and no.
My favorite answer.
Yeah, I'm like, well, kind of, maybe. I'm very thorough. I have a very type A personality. I stay very active in my referrals. I know within minutes that something is falling through the cracks because I do stay involved through the entire duration. That means a very extensive workload for me. And I've had to hire people in place to be able to manage things properly. But traditional in the sense that, yes, I'm still saying, hey, can you take on this referral? And here's what the referral fee is going to be. And here you go. Here's the client. Not traditional in the sense that I don't say, hey, this was a great time. Here you go. Let me know when that check hits my account, right? Or the brokerage's account, however you're paid out. Not traditional in that sense. I really play a pretty active role through the entire duration of the referral. And I take a very active role at our brokerage in, making sure that SOPs are dialed in. We have a weekly meeting with every division. I have a weekly meeting with every division here to include our CDA team, our banking team, our transactions, everybody, along with some of the leadership to make sure that SOPs are dialed in to reduce the amount of those types of things that happen. Now, does it still happen? Yes, but the better we can get at the management of those deals and the policies and procedures and how they're handed off and all of those things, the less likely those types of things are to happen. And when they do, that you can be quick to act and not lose the client. Because if you say, here they are, have a great time, I'll see you when that check hits, and it falls through, you don't know that that has happened. And you can't guarantee that Susie Seller is going to come back to you and say, hey, that person you sent, they didn't work out. Susie
Right.
Seller's probably already on Google or Facebook and has found 5 other people that can take that place. They're not circling back to you as the referral agent. So you and the agent who dropped the ball have lost that relationship. But if you stay hyper involved during the duration of those, that is minimized.
Go ahead, Rachel.
No, you go, Miller. You, then me, then you.
So we have a few minutes left.
Yeah,
If you could give your top 5, top 4.
3. I think we have time for 3.
Okay, we'll go with 3. Your top 3 advice for real estate professionals to keep and generate referrals. What are your top 3?
Let's go clarity and expectation.
So here's a question that's going to make you laugh. What do you mean about clarity?
I think being very clear in the intro text that I send that says, hey, here's my client and here's this realtor is very extensive. I'm going to make sure that every detail is in there to include how I want you to fill out the disclosures and when that will happen, what I want on the first appointment, what I want to see, all of those things. And so where some agents may not like that because they're like, oh, okay, this feels a little bit like Anastasia's holding my hand. If we are very clear in our communication, there's no room for confusion. Where confusion happens is when you're not clear and you're not direct about the way about what is going to happen through those, which is what leads me to the expectation part, right? Is that I'm very clear and concise on my expectations. And so between those two things, it leaves less margin of error.
And one other question. We have to have you back on because this half hour went by way too fast. How would somebody, if they're interested in your novation kit, how would they get it?
Yeah, so they could connect with me on social media. I am on Instagram as virtually_Anastasia, and I am on Facebook as Anastasia, so first name, and then Best UA Properties, because I'm in Washington. So Anastasia Best WA Properties on Facebook, and it is plastered all over there. You can't miss it. I think every post probably has some sort of connection into how to get that access.
Honestly, this has been one of the most intriguing conversations we've had on this show so far. I
I'm
have
so glad.
been dialed into every word that you've said since you began speaking.
Good.
So I look forward to another show with you, some more episodes. We have a lot of information to dive into, and I look forward to connecting with you off of this platform. And I'm so happy to have met you. Scott, thank you for bringing on Anastasia.
Absolutely.
Thank you
And
guys for
honestly,
having me.
before we go, I'm going to say don't go away too fast after we go off the air here. And because we are now at 31 minutes, what's the best email for someone to reach out to you at, Anastasia?
Yeah, so it is my first name, Anastasia, at bestwaproperties.com.
Awesome. And Rachel, best way to people to reach out to you, not in Washington, but they're in Ventura County.
Anywhere. I'm anywhere. I'll be anywhere. I'm Rachel at gratishomes.com is my email. My website is rachelmarino.gratishomes.com, and you can call me 805-813-0664. Miller?
Awesome. I can be reached at Homes with Scott K. Miller or text me at 760-264-3501. Anastasia, I have people messaging me on the chat saying, I'm still trying to wrap my head this concept around novation. And I'm going to say, you'll have to tune in next time, or you can reach out to Anastasia directly.
And don't Google and don't chat because they won't tell you anything.
They will not. The information it makes me cringe, to be honest. The information is so bad.
I think I can hear Sherry typing going, I'm going to find out more because I want to find out more.
Wonderful.
Yes, I'm sure that she will. So anyway, with that, I will, again, Anastasia, don't hang up yet. I really appreciate you being on the show with us today. And Sherry just said, yeah, she's going to be reaching out.
Yeah. I look
With
forward
that,
to it.
again, thank you for being on the show today. And next week, I believe we're going to have on a credit repair expert, and I'm not going to say who they are yet because I haven't totally dialed it in. However, there are lots of scams out there, and our credit repair expert is not a scam, and she's actually all official like. So I am Scott Miller, otherwise known as Miller with Epic Realty, and Rachel and Anastasia. Thank you all for being here today, and we will talk to you guys next week. Thanks very much,
Have a
everybody.
good
Take care.
afternoon.
Have a great day.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
And